Photographers of Reddit, what is the most outrageous photo shoot request you've received from an Instagram influencer? Story 1. Someone asked me to shoot her entire wedding, a full day in engagement photo shoot underwater. I do underwater photography also, and some honeymoon shot somewhere. All for exposure. I straight up said no, politely, and she kicked off in a patronizing way, asking me if I knew who she was and what it would do for my career. She had about 10,000 fewer followers than I did, and I don't even do weddings, as I had pointed out to her before, so it wasn't even in my best interest even if she had millions of followers. Oh, and an influencer guy asked me to do a nude photo shoot for him for free. I declined but wished him luck. He then sent a dong pic. I reported him. We now have a Discord. Check out the server in the link in the description. Story 2. A few years back, I was in Acadia National Park and we did the Beehive Trail hike. For those unfamiliar, it's basically as close to rock climbing as you can get not harnessed, as you are going straight up a cliff on iron rungs and stuff. So super fun, and you are rewarded with an amazing view at the top. Most people take a quick snap there at the lip, as most do at the peak of their hike, and then move on to the more rocky area to rest, but it is a less nice view. Anyway, while we were there resting, 2 Instagram girls got to the top and promptly took over the best view of the lip to take various yoga poses, because that was just a totally natural thing to do after scrambling up a cliff. For at least 10 minutes, by the way. Families were coming up asking if they could take a picture, but they literally said, "We were here first," and "We'll be here a while," when asked if they were almost done. We ended up leaving before they were done, but it still boils my blood thinking about it. Story 3. I do documentary film and I had a non-film job in college, and I met this lady who was maybe 30 ask me to do an Instagram video like this. And she showed me a professional video shoot done with a green screen, lights, and a set. I told her I could probably get pretty close to quality with my university's equipment, but it would take some time to get a crew together and reserve a studio. She told me, no, I should just record it with my phone. I told her that's not what they did for the Instagram video she just showed me, and she said, "It's on Instagram, that means they recorded it with their phone." She dropped it after I mentioned I charge money and wouldn't just do it to be nice. She also had like 10 followers and 3 of them were bots. I swear, because of the ability for everyone to make a video now, so many people just don't realize what goes into like professional looking shoots. They think they can just do it with their phones. It's crazy. And look, phones can get pretty good results, but it's not even gonna get close. Story 4. Not a photographer, but one of my acquaintances is a semi-popular influencer. She spends way too much time to seem authentic and down to earth. One time at a small party, I did something funny that made a bunch of people laugh. However, it wasn't caught on camera, and she forced me to recreate the moment so that she could film it for her Instagram story. You're apparently not having fun unless you can prove it to your thousands of followers. Story 5. I was in New York once and this girl, should be in her 20s I think, approached me and told me to take her photo. I thought it would be some general request, but still, to stand up to my pride, I lowered the camera to gain an architectural perspective. But then when I look at her, she was standing in the middle of the road, one arm on a car, that she must have stopped because the traffic was ongoing, and the other holding a banner that said, "Life." To this day, I have no idea what I witnessed. Story 6. Professional here. This isn't really outrageous in terms of what they wanted to do in a photo, but I would say 90% of influencers who contact me try to use tagging as their form of payment. "Well, I have 100,000 followers, so you're guaranteed to get so much work from this. You'd be an idiot to say no." This is word for word what one woman said to me when I politely informed her of my rates. Paying artists in exposure is nothing new, but the level of entitlement I'm seeing these days is off the charts. The only thing I can ever guarantee from these interactions is that they will throw a massive tantrum when I say no, complete with some classic r/nice girl stuff like, "Your stuff isn't even that good, I was trying to do you a favor," and stuff like that. One person contacted me saying that she gets paid X amount from companies per post. Thus, every post she makes using my photographs should count for X amount of dollars paid to me. Because, like, so many people will see it, you will pretty much be famous. Edit to answer some of the common responses. Yes, I do my best to explain how the process actually works, that exposure isn't a form of payment, etc. This has varying degrees of success, but a lot of the time they end up paying my rates anyway and say something like, "Never know if you don't ask, right? Lol." No, I don't ever respond with sarcastic or snarky comments. You never know when someone will go off the rails and start bad-mouthing you on their platform. Screenshots are a thing, and word of mouth is a huge part of getting new clients. Yes, it would be immensely satisfying to lay into some of these people, but an out-of-context screenshot with some victim story behind it? Yeah, that can be extremely damaging, so it's always better to err on the side of caution. I honestly appreciate all these suggestions for counteroffers and ways of dealing with these people. There's some seriously smart answers here. Bravo, Reddit. I don't let anyone take advantage of me or my business, and managing client expectations is just part of the job. I absolutely hate the whole, oh, you never know if you don't ask thing. Like, look, sometimes you just shouldn't ask, it just wastes everyone's time. Story 7. I have a long gray/white beard, which naturally prompts a lot of jokes about looking like Santa Claus. We spent Christmas in Punta Cana this year, and I have this old Hawaiian shirt with reindeer and Christmas crap on it. So the afternoon of Christmas Day, I went walking down the beach in my Christmas suit and was instantly surrounded by all these girls in bikinis wanting to take a selfie with Santa Claus. I was game. Seemed like it was all in good fun, and if a bunch of giggling girls want to sit on my lap and take a picture, who am I to complain? But it got obnoxious really quickly. Each of them wanted 20 shots from different angles in different poses with different backgrounds and different light angles. I couldn't figure out what was going on until one of them mentioned how popular this was going to be on Instagram. That she found out what Santa does to rest after Christmas Eve. After that, it was just kind of irritating, so I refused to do any more photos unless it was a child who asked, which upset the Instagram crowd, which naturally made it even more irritating. I ended up avoiding the beach and pool area for the rest of the week. Story 8. I love ridiculous requests because I do surrealist/neon stuff on my own time and really enjoy going for weird and unusual vibes. Probably the funniest was one girl who came to my house. I have a mini jungle to shoot with my plants. And we wrapped her up in vines, wrapped her guitar, stacked up plants behind her, and generally made it look like she was being enveloped by plants. Fun results and really funny to shoot. I don't think this is quite what OP meant by ridiculous requests, but hey, it's a lighter story amidst all of the annoying Instagram influencers, so I'll take it. Story 9. Been a wedding photographer for 12 years. I routinely get asked to do entire weddings for free, not even always from Instagram influencers. One time, this guy, whom I didn't even like that much, asked me to do a wedding for free for his friend, someone I didn't even know existed at all until this interaction. I just imagine walking into a restaurant and asking for the absolute best meal they have for $0, and then telling them it will be good for their business to do so. Story 10. I do photography on the side, since I'm mostly film/video. But I have a friend who has an Instagram account as a side business for fun. I told her I would do a photo shoot for her if she helped me with my resume and cover letter. Although she has tons of companies that give her free products to review, the photo credits she gave me honestly didn't lead to any followers on my Instagram. So yeah, anyone who wants exposure for crazy work, I don't think knows that they actually don't give any exposure. In my case, I was the one who brought up the deal, and honestly, I would have done it for free to get out of the house because she's my friend. But yeah, the photo credit doesn't do anything in my experience. Story 11. Not a photographer personally, but a few of my close friends are. My friend that we'll call Sarah is a pretty successful photographer for only being a college student. About a month ago, Sarah and I were meeting up for lunch at our university's food court, and she's fiddling with her cameras, prepping them for a big shoot she has that night, when this very attractive girl comes up and starts chatting to us. She makes a few minutes of casual conversation, mostly inquiring about Sarah's cameras, and then finally asks if she'd be interested in doing a shoot. She immediately throws her pitch, which had to do with modeling some very risque outfits up in the mountains just outside of the city, and then a few photos directly in the center of downtown. Overall, the whole pitch was basically something that bordered very close to being adult in nature. Sarah tells the girl her typical rates and also states that because of the nature of the shoot, she'll have to charge extra, as it's not something she typically does or is super comfortable with. The girl's face, when Sarah mentioned the price, went from enthusiastic to very, "Are you kidding me?" She then butts in and says, "I have over 85,000 Instagram followers. So do you know the kind of exposure working for me would give you? This is a once-in-a-lifetime chance for you." Sarah responds, telling her that she's an in-house photographer for 3 of the city's largest concert venues, as well as works as a photographer for the newspaper and is a highly recommended wedding photographer on top of it all. "I don't work for free." My favorite line she said during this was, "I work with people much more famous than you on almost a daily basis. I've shot photos for Marilyn Manson, Motley Crue, Shania Twain, Post Malone, and a bunch of other musicians. And it was all paid for. Your exposure isn't worth anything to me." After that, the girl got really upset and walked off. Story 12. I had the girlfriend of a D-list celebrity try to get me to take cheesy couples photography of them. I'm a fashion/editorial photographer, mind you, not a family portrait taker. She did this by saying, "He was in Moonlight. He is very successful." When I replied with my prices, she literally argued with me about it for 4 emails, saying how great it would be for you to do it for me for free. When I eventually told her to go find someone else. If he's very successful, he can surely pay me $200. Another photographer around here did it for free, and neither she nor the photos got any exposure from it whatsoever. Shocking. Thomas Middleditch did ask me to take his photo a couple of years ago, which I really wish I would have done, but I was across the country at the time. Now that would have been some worthwhile exposure. I feel like anyone who's big enough to give worthwhile exposure, though, knows that artists need to be paid for their work. So I guess that means the whole working for exposure thing is just never the right choice. Story 13. I do street photography every so often. I was offered an influencer credit for pretending to be in shock that I found her in the streets of my town. I would take a bunch of photos of her at the spot and give them to her. This would all be recorded by her, I hope, boyfriend. I wasn't allowed to use any of the photos myself, and all I would get is a tag at the end of the description. I said no thanks, then snapped a couple of photos of her. She said she would sue me. I said we were on public streets and I'm a hobbyist who doesn't sell. I don't need model waivers. Never heard from her again. Never used the photos either. She's not that interesting. Story 14. Not a photographer, but related story. I was at a private event. The Insta user actually had a cameraman shooting video. 2 hours into the event, one of the celebs noticed this random videographer and spoke with security. Security told them to stop filming and destroy any footage already shot. She refused and started yelling and making a fuss. Another very large celebrity who didn't like his party being ruined grabbed the video camera, smashed it, took the memory card, and his private bodyguards escorted her away. She ended up posting an expose in which she bashed the celebs that were there and threatened the location with retaliation. This got her account banned from both Instagram and Facebook. Instagram influencer, no more. 25,000 plus followers lost. Sorry, no names, or I don't get invited to these events anymore. Story 15. A related story, but exactly what OP is asking for. We were on a road trip and at the Tokati Falls near southern Oregon. Now, this falls is located at the end of a trail about a mile long. The trail leads to a vantage point that's about 40 to 50 feet above the fall. If you're a rock climber, then you can probably scramble to the base of the falls, but it's quite a scary endeavor. The day we were there, we saw 2 influencer couples at the parking lot. We noticed them because the girls stripped down to their skimpy bikinis in the parking lot, and they had some snorkeling gear as well. Now, this is a pretty popular spot on Insta, and so the parking lot was packed with quite a lot of kids and families around. They started the hike the same time as us and were planning on various poses and shots the whole time. Finally, we reached the end of the trail and they realized that all those cool shots on Insta means scrambling 30 feet down a wet rock face to the bottom of the falls. The disappointment was palpable that day. The bickering while hiking back was even better. It still cracks me up to think about to this day. Story 16. I'm a train conductor heading out to hop on a train that was parked to take it to its destination. The locomotives were under this 200-yard-long overpass tunnel, all private property. There are 2 girls in their early 20s under there taking pics. I asked them to leave and they took an attitude and were upset I was ruining their shoot. The engineer and I are all ready to roll. I'm tall, young, and fit, so the engineer asks if I want to go try to get a phone number. I reply, nah, reach over and lay on the whistle for a solid minute as the 2 trespassers run screaming. Whistles are loud, and when amplified by a compact overpass tunnel, it's painfully loud. Also, cool railroad pictures aren't worth getting hurt or putting train men in a semi-responsible position of your demise. Story 17. Not an influencer necessarily, but a band. I have a really close family friend from high school who plays in a local band, and he usually does a pretty good job at getting me on the guest list, whether or not I actually want to take pictures. However, I do bring my camera with me every time, just in case. I usually use the opening bands to dial in my settings and see what angles look good for the stage setup, because they didn't even know I was going to be there in the first place. And I'm there because of my friend, so obviously I want anything I give to him to be some of my better work. Sometimes if the other bands notice me walking around and snapping pictures during their set, they'll come find me after the show and ask for them. If I manage to get any that look decent, I never have a problem sending them copies of the photos for their social media pages. Some bands even offer to give me a free t-shirt or hat or vinyl of their newest release, etc., which is always appreciated. As with any photo that hasn't been purchased, done for exposure, I place my watermark in the lower right corner of the picture after I'm done my editing. It's not obtrusive, it's pretty tasteful in my opinion, and it just ensures that people know who took the photo. Sometimes bands can't remember my name or forget to tag me in a post. No big deal, humans make mistakes. I get it. So after this one concert in early 2019, the lead singer of an opening band, one I had never heard of, comes up to me. She says, "I saw you taking pictures during our set. Would you mind sending those to us for our Instagram?" I said, "No problem. Give me a few days to import, edit, and upload the photos, and I'll email you everything." She followed it up with, "We're on tour right now, so we're pretty hard pressed for money, but we'd be happy to give you a shout out on our page and direct bands in the area to look for you for concert photography." I said, "Yeah, that's fine. I already got free admission to the concert through another band, so I'm not super worried about the money. Besides, this is more of a hobby than a job," and we went our separate ways. Fast forward about a week, and I decided to go check on their Instagram to see if they had posted anything from the show, and sure enough, they had. However, not only had they not tagged me in the post, they completely cropped out the watermark I put on the picture. So much for exposure, I guess. I reached out to them on Instagram and also commented on the post using my photography profile, not my personal one, and just politely asked them if they'd tag the photo, as not only was it my actual photograph, but it was also my edit. Well, they blocked me. Only on my photography profile, though. I checked their Instagram on my personal when I started reading this thread, and sure enough, that picture is still on their page. And they hadn't even deleted the comment I made on it saying, "I'm sure it's an honest mistake, but I would appreciate you giving credit to the photographer who kindly sent you these photos with nothing promised but a shout out." Some people's kids, man. Story 18. Not influencers, but years ago I was doing a lot of promotional burlesque portraits. I'm nobody in the industry, but I was lucky to connect with amazing performers who not only were a treat to work with, but had access to high-end costumes and styling. And those really elevated the shots. As a result, and due to the popularity of burlesque in my country at the time, I get a lot of requests for similar photos, both from regular people who wanted something for themselves. Easily done, I had plenty of props and outfits, and as I was very keen on making women feel good in their skin, I was happy to shoot them on commission. And wannabe starlets who wanted me to shoot their acts. Let me tell you, these last were the most entitled, acting like they were doing me a favor of letting me shoot their very basic outfit. Think store-bought Legs Avenue lingerie, party wigs, and fake ostrich fans. Also demanding I set up a high-end production at my expense, so makeup, hair, set styling, and of course dozens of edited photos in high resolution, all free of charge. Under the classic trade for print excuse, despite they were going to of course be using them to promote themselves, so it would have been a full-on commercial use. It got so bad that I was spending more time explaining why I wasn't going to shoot someone than organizing my actual shoots. So my solution was to remove myself from the dialogue. I made a very lighthearted graphic test to find out if you have the right requirements for a trade for print. That would cover practically everything and sent that to people who I thought were going to waste my time. It removed the hassle of writing dozens of messages to explain politely things that were already on my website and social media. And I found out the amount of people willing to pester me after receiving it was close to zero.